Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the most detail-packed FNAF fan games ever created. From subtle secrets hidden in plain sight, to clever callbacks and tiny touches that most players completely miss, these games reward anyone willing to pay close attention. Some of these developers thought of everything, so let's dive into them. I want you to think about the last time you've played a FNAF fan game that has introduced a mechanic you've never seen before. Maybe you think of Junior's deduction game mechanic. Maybe you think of Teelerland's upgrade system. Or maybe you dig really deep and think of One Night at Flumpty's 3 moving camera buttons. Whatever it may be, I'm sure you can agree that seeing a new mechanic is always interesting, and in my opinion is the most enjoyable part of playing FNAF games. I love exploring what people can come up with. Even if the new mechanics are frustrating, I still love them. The game we'll be covering today introduces a mechanic like nothing I've ever seen before. A game so obscure I'd never heard of it, and I'm willing to bet you've never heard of it either. The game we'll be covering today is After Hours at Cody's, a so far one-off FNAF fan game that introduces one of the most interesting game mechanics I've ever seen, while also telling one of the most gruesome and depraved stories I've ever witnessed. You're not going to want to miss what we have in store today, so let's dive into the world of After Hours at Cody's. Before each night, we get a small cutscene to show us a little bit of what we're getting into. In the Night 1 cutscene, we see a mysterious black figure cause one of the animatronics to awaken. And I'm not gonna lie, the animatronic that wakes up is a bit of a bad bitch, I'm not gonna lie to you. But with that, we do start Night 1. Night 1 obviously introduces one threat. But before we can start talking about that threat, we need to talk about the mechanic in this game that makes it so unique: the cameras. Taking a look at them, you'll notice that there's a long bar in the center of the map with one small section of it being red and a small rectangle quickly moving back and forth across it. If you haven't figured out what these cameras are about to do yet, then let me tell you. When you switch cameras, you will need to time the camera switch up with when the small moving rectangle is inside of the red bar. If you mistime it, then the camera you clicked on will load very slowly. And this is a very fast-paced game. If you time it properly, the camera will load almost instantly. This is such an interesting mechanic that I originally thought I was going to hate. But it's because of this mechanic that I've actually put After Hours at Cody's in my top 5 favorite FNAF fan games of all time. But the timing doesn't only relate to how fast your cameras load. If that was all it did, then this mechanic would be pretty lackluster overall. It also plays a much more integral role with a core mechanic of the game: the power. Your power drains pretty quickly in this game. However, there is a way to recharge it. And unlike in most FNAF games where you can recharge power, it's surprisingly not done by holding down a fucking button like a music box. Thank dick. This time around, it's also tied to the timing mechanic in the cameras. Every time you properly time a camera switch, a small battery multiplier will increase by 1 at the bottom of the camera. The higher that multiplier is, the more power will increase, with a maximum multiplier of 30. However, if you don't properly time a switch fast enough, then the multiplier will start to quickly decrease. So constantly switching cameras is a must. I think this is easily one of the most unique mechanics I've ever seen. It adds a level of skill that most other FNAF games just don't have. Most FNAF games' skill ceilings are marked by your reflexes. This one is marked by your rhythm, and I think that's awesome. But anyways, onto the threat this night introduces: Bad Bitch Bella. Or as this game calls her, Bella the Beaver. I think my name is a little bit better though, personally. Bad Bitch Bella has a very simple motive: walk to your office, put a collar on you, and walk you like a dog. You guys can feel free to defend yourself from her, which I will explain how to do in a moment, but I for one will already be on my hands and knees by the time she enters the office. She will try to enter your office through camera 5 or your right door. In camera 5, she'll have 2 stages. One where she's far away from the camera, and another where she's much closer. Once she moves to her second phase, you will have to use your camera's alarm system, which, lucky us, is also tied to the timing mechanic. When you press the alarm button, if you don't time it with the red bar, the audio will not play and you'll have to wait for your alarm to charge back up. When you use the alarm on Bad Bitch Bella, she will look at the camera. When she does, all you have to do is close your door, and eventually she will go back to the stage. If you don't use the alarm on her, she will pound on your door and drain a lot of power before leaving, and then Operation Walk You Like a Dog will be set in motion. Very easy character to explain two very important mechanics in this game. I think After Hours at Cody's Night 1 is a great example of properly introducing your game's core mechanics in a way that isn't confusing or overwhelming. Plus, you made the character really hot for no reason at all. This is a children's establishment. Why are the characters hot? That's something I'll never be able to wrap my head around. Now, how do we actually complete the night? Surviving until 6 a.m., Dxtr? You fucking retard? Whoa. Hey now. The people in my comments don't like it when you say that word. Do better, retard. Anyways, no. Surviving until 6 a.m. is not how you complete a night in this game. After Hours at Cody's opts to use a task-based completion system. Now everyone hold your breath, because this could either make or break this game depending on how shitty the tasks are. You can exhale. It's okay. The task is mundane. However, it plays into the game's core mechanic, so it actually makes for a very satisfying gameplay loop. Remember that black figure that brought the bad bitch back to life? Well, that character is known in this game as the Anomaly. And judging by that name alone, I'm willing to bet you can guess what this guy is going to do and what the task system in this game is. The Anomaly has a random chance to appear on any of the cameras in your game at any time. If at any point you find him, you will have to use your alarm on the camera that he's on. When you do, your Anomaly counter will go up. After you find him 10 times, the night will be over. You do have to note that he will not always be on a camera, and if you don't find him fast enough when he appears, he will not stay on a camera forever and will eventually leave. Again, overall this mechanic is pretty boring, but because of how well it ties into the timing mechanic, it serves as one of the most enjoyable FNAF experiences I've ever had. But now on to night 2, except I lied because we actually have a cutscene to talk about first.
My dear friends, the worst has come to pass. As many of you may already know, my brother, Darren, has not been found since his disappearance earlier this year. He meant the world to me, as I'm sure he did to plenty of you too. His astounding creativity and infallible craftsmanship became the source of so many wonderful memories for children all across the country. These moments we shared will remain evergreen to me for as long as I live. Before I continue though, I'd like to show you this. A child at Cody's gave this to me once when I was visiting the restaurant. Wonderful, isn't it? This creativity we inspire. As it pains me to say, I do understand the suspicion people may have had toward me in the months following my brother's disappearance. But please, I urge you all to understand how these events have weighed heavy on me. He was my family too. The threats I've received since then caused me to think about my place in all this. I know I may not have been the most communicative or involved between the two of us, but I still did hold so much love for the work we did together. All this is to say that I will be stepping down as proprietor of Cody & Co. I've had a long and fulfilling career, and I only hope that the kindness I've shown will continue to reflect on the company as I look forward to finding someone new to handle the reins. But until then, I hope only to leave this company in a better state than it currently remains. If my being a part of this only serves to obstruct the joy and wonder that my brother and I wish to impart, then perhaps it is best if I step down and let the magic live on without me. Thank you for everything. I genuinely had a wonderful time.
So, we have two brothers that started this company together, and one of them tragically died. Now, I'm no FNAF expert, Okay, maybe I am a little. I think we're all smart enough to know that the pain in this guy's voice is definitely a little bit sussy. I'm not pointing any fingers here, but if it comes out that his brother is the one who killed him, I would not be surprised in the slightest. Anyways, on to night 2. By the way, if you were curious as to how this game explains the anomaly, well, the phone guy blatantly tells us that we're ghost hunting. Everyone that works in this building knows about this thing and what it can do, and we were more so hired to remove it. If I signed up for a night watch job and got told that, I would walk out of that building before the poor bastard could even hang up. Night 2 introduces one new threat, Morris, who also introduces the last major mechanic this game has to talk about, the curtain behind you. I haven't actually mentioned it so far, but yes, you can turn around in your office to find a curtain. It vaguely reminds me of the curtain from those nights at Rachel's. However, this game isn't mind-numbingly boring like that one is. Morris will slowly creep out from behind the curtains throughout the night. Occasionally, you'll have to turn around and force him back. However, unlike most curtain mechanics like this, it isn't just pulling them closed or holding your light on it. After Hours at Cody's needs to get a little bit quirky. Introducing probably the most frustrating mechanic in the entire game. Next to the curtains, you'll see 4 buttons. Each button has a color. You might be thinking, Dexter, I'm looking at them and not a single one of them has a color. Well, you see, dear viewer, that's what I thought too. However, no, they do indeed have a color. You just can't see which color each button is until you press it, which I think is very stupid. Morris has 5 phases before jump scaring you. The first phase is the phase you'll mostly see him in. All you'll be able to see is his nose. This is the furthest back that he can be, so if he looks like this, you're all good. The next 4 phases each correspond to one of those buttons. So depending on how close he is to ganking you, you will have to select the correct colored button and then flash your light on him to make him go back to phase 1. What do the buttons mixed with the flashlight have to do with sending him back? I really have no idea. And in all honesty, I think this is easily the weakest part of the entire game. But that's not where my frustration with Morris ends. No, not at all. Believe it or not, turning around in your office can be a frustrating experience for literally no reason whatsoever. How, you might be asking? Well, I'd be more than happy to explain it to you. Let's say you're facing towards your doors. Bad bitch Bella is at your door, so for now, the door is closed. While this door is closed, apparently Beth, the name of our player, gets fucking glued to the goddamn ground and is unable to move an inch. Because if either one of your doors are closed, you will be unable to turn around to check on Morris. How does this make any sense at all? It literally fucking doesn't. And that's not all. It gets even more frustrating. Let's imagine you're facing Morris. You press a button and flash your light to send him back. Now it's time to turn around and start filling up our power in the camera again. But uh-oh, fucker! You forgot to press the button you already fucking pressed. Because if any of the buttons are currently toggled on, you can't turn around. Why? Who the fuck knows? I love this game a lot, but holy shit, this is one of the most retarded things I've ever seen. It doesn't make any sense at all. Well, whatever. It's frustrating. It's stupid, but I didn't let it ruin my experience with the rest of this amazing game. Speaking of, let's move on to the post-night 2 cutscene.
Greetings, employee, and welcome to part 3 of the Warren Tech Mascot Training Module. In this chapter, we'll be demonstrating how to safely wear and operate our patented Flex mascot suit. To begin the process, locate the 4 winding ports present on each of the character's limbs. Use your company-issued War Wrench to turn counterclockwise and disengage the mascot's enhanced performance mode. You should notice the eyes glow red from the activation of the light relay. This means that the mascot is ready to be worn. Simply be warned. Do not, by any circumstances, wear the mascot suit while it is still in its enhanced performance mode. Its specialized routines involve the full rotation and contortion of the extremities. Should you be caught in the suit during the performance of one of these routines, do not panic. If you can, tuck your legs and arms into the main torso and lower your head as far as possible.
Repeat the phrase, Abort showtime routine. Jonah protocol in effect. Abort showtime routine. Jonah protocol in effect.
So it seems we've found After Hours at Cody's spring lock equivalent. And in all honesty, I think it's way more brutal than the spring lock suit could ever be. Imagine being locked inside of that clown suit, only for the arms and legs to start twisting, breaking your bones, ripping your tendons, and contorting your bodies in ways it was never supposed to bend. This is easily one of the most terrifying ideas I've ever seen in a FNAF game before, and I'm all for it. Night 3 introduces one new threat, Jack the Jackal. He acts as this game's Chica, being a borderline exact copy of Bad Bitch Bella, except she's a 10 and he's like a 4 at best on a good day. As I'm sure you could have expected, Jack does the exact same thing as Bella, except he attacks camera 6 and your left door instead of your right. The same system and rules apply to him. He has 2 phases on camera 6. Once he's in his second phase, use the alarm on him and close the door until he leaves. Simple sugar. We've dealt with this before, however, it does add a decent deal of pressure in combination with what we already have. The cooldown for the alarm is relatively slow, and now having 3 consistent problems we need to use it on, it could easily start to get out of hand fast. Not to mention having another door character which could prevent us from turning around to check on Morris. This game can get stressful, but I honestly think that's one of the most enjoyable parts about it.
Clocking out? Okay. Have a good night then. Hey, Lonnie, mind if I talk to you about something?
Oh, of course. I was just about to finish up here. What's on your mind?
So, I've been going over the company's financial statements to help allocate the budget for next year. I noticed that some of our bank capital's been withdrawn and donated to a couple of undisclosed recipients. They've been blocked out. You wouldn't happen to know anything about this, would you? Okay, if you don't know anything about it, I'll just go ask Cynthia.
You won't get anything of value out of her. I made those withdrawals.
Alright, that's fine, but let me know next time. Given how much was spent, I don't have enough money left to fund my R&D for the new mascots next year. We need to focus on improving the restaurant before doing anything like this, okay? Anyways, who were the recipients anyway? You're joking, Lonnie. Tell me you're joking.
Quite the opposite, I'm afraid.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And after all that shit about dedicating yourself to the betterment of the company, to promise a business that would never do anything to harm its audience again, you pulled this on me?
Look, calm down. I can explain.
No, you can't explain shit. You may put up a face to get them to tolerate you, but I'll be damned if you ever gave a shit about the kids. I'm the one working my ass off out there to cover for your mistakes.
I said calm down! Don't even start with me. Your pitiful self-righteousness is pathetic. Do you not remember the hole I dug you out of? You owe every part of the success to me. I made this company, and I made you. Don't try to push superiority onto me when you're the one who crawled to me, begging for my help all those years ago. What I do with my company's funds is none of your business. Do what is asked of you before I decide you're no longer needed.
Fine, you made your point.
Glad we came to an agreement. Be seeing you.
Whatever.
So, the brother Lonnie, who we heard in the Night 1 cutscene, has been spending company money on something shady. The exact contents have been redacted, but judging from Daryl's reaction, it's not good news. We also have a pretty big argument about money here. And if we're still rolling with my theory that Lonnie had something to do with Daryl's death, money is one of the most common reasons for murder. Again, not necessarily pointing any fingers. Okay, that's a lie. Yes, I am. there's no way in fuck Lonnie isn't the reason Daryl died, but I guess only time will tell. Night 4 introduces the main attraction himself, Cody. Really shitty name, by the way. The only Cody I like is this gay guy who wears a lot of blue and has some yellow ass teeth. Anyways, on to what Cody from the game does. Cody's main goal in this game is to absolutely rail your power supply. There are 2 cameras which have breaker boxes in them. They must be female because Cody really wants to break their boxes with his big fat patty whacker double-decker robo dig. When he's in either of these cameras, he'll have 2 phases. One where he's just kind of chilling there, and the other where he's having intercourse with said breaker box. When you see him doing his thing with his big fat patty whacker double-decker robo dick, use the alarm on his camera to scare him away. If you don't, obviously your power is going to disintegrate like the cells on my testicles when I accidentally place them on the stove. So, here we have yet another character that requires us to use the alarm system. Can you start to see how this game could become stressful? Especially considering that our alarm has a pretty long cooldown time in reference to the amount of characters that require its use. Yeah, it can become a bit much at times, but in all honesty, I never felt like this game was unfair. I never felt like there was even an inkling of RNG. This game is so fun. You guys really need to check it out, or check out my full playthrough over on my second channel, Dxtr Black.
I'm done.
Just what is the meaning of this?
I can't keep covering your ass. I've just about had it. I've been trying to keep the magic alive for years at this point, but everything you've done has just thrown a wrench in every plan I've had. Every single time I was at the cusp of making something good for our audience, you've pulled the rug out from under my feet. Whatever, I know your heart was never really in it. Hell, we both know that neither of us would be here if it weren't for my mascots.
Do I need to remind you of the last time we've had this conversation?
No, because I've been thinking about what you said. Sure, you helped me out of a dark place, but I'm sure as goddamn hell you only ever did it to leech off my talent, knowing full well you couldn't produce a fraction of what we've accomplished here on your own.
Just get to the point. You're wasting my time.
I've had Cynthia pull our financial statements from the last 2 years. Don't even think about going after her when this is done, because she's made up her mind to leave long ago. I have the contacts of every news outlet in the state, ready to publish the uncensored documents at a moment's notice.
What? Are you dense? Don't you realize that this is gonna spell the end of you too?
I do. Besides, however this turns out sure as hell beats trying to steer a ship that's been sinking for years now. So I'm gonna give you 2 options. Walk away now and forsake your every stake in this company, or take the fall with me and lose everything anyway.
You belligerent, unthinking fool! You really haven't changed at all, have you? Still the over-emotional disaster of a child you've been since we were kids. God, it's no wonder Mom and Dad gave up on you so damn easily. You know what? Do your worst. You won't get anything out of me.
Then I guess you made your choice.
God damn it, Doria, get back here! This isn't something you just decide!
I've told you, my name is Daryl. Goodbye, Bonnie.
No, this can't be happening. Why are you making me do this?
Tisk, tisk, tisk. Well. Looky what we have here. Exactly as I suspected. Lonnie killed his brother. Sure, Daryl was gonna bring the entire company to its knees, but to be fair, it was entirely Lonnie's fault. I also want to use this cutscene to bring up a problem I have with some FNAF fan games. Voice acting can really make or break an impactful scene in a game. You really need to be able to get an actor or actress who can really bring that energy that the role needs to tell its story. Lonnie's voice acting is bad, and it really shows in this Night 4 cutscene. From the mumbling, making it hard to understand what he's saying if it wasn't for the subtitles, to the actor not really yelling during a scene where he needs to be yelling, it makes this scene, which is supposed to be impactful and shocking, just feel very awkward and uncomfortable. Not every game needs voice acting either. If you're a dev working on a FNAF game, or any game for that matter, and you just can't quite find an actor or actress that can fit your role with the vision you had in your head, I honestly think it's much better to just leave the voicing up to the player, rather than using an actor or actress that is going to make your scenes feel like they came out of Garden of Banban, a game series with notoriously horrendous voice acting. Anyways, moving on to Night 5. It introduces nothing new and just serves as a more difficult version of Night 4, so there's obviously not a whole lot to talk about here. However, what we can talk about is the post-Night 5 cutscene.
Hello? Oh, hello? Lonnie, what is this? Get me the hell out of here.
No. They can't know. God. Why are you making me do this?
Wait, what? Lonnie, what the hell are you thinking of doing?
Please. Don't make this harder than it has to be.
Lonnie, please, no. Listen, don't do this. I'm your brother!
You made me do this! They can't know. No one can know.
Please, Lonnie! I don't want to die! I don't want to die! I don't want to die!
Now, no one will know. I'm sorry, Daryl.
So, Daryl was killed via the Flex clown suit, this game's Springlocks. It's not often you see someone other than the villain in a FNAF game fall to one of these traps. I was definitely shocked when I first saw this, and you can see my reaction to it over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Truly one of the most brutal death scenes I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game, except this time around, it didn't happen to someone we wanted it to happen to. Night 6 introduces this game's final two threats, and one of them is obviously the clown, Klaus, acting as this game's boss fight night. Klaus acts as every character we've seen so far, and that includes the anomaly. Klaus can attack both of your doors, can try to break your breaker boxes with his big fat patty whacker double-decker robo dick, and is the anomaly you have to find. Namely, if his eyes are glowing, that's how you know to play the alarm. Do this 10 times and the night is over. But what about Morris? It's stated in the phone call that Klaus destroyed all of the animatronics. What about a Morris mechanic? Well, Morris is replaced by this night's second new threat, Shadow Cody, who is a much faster version of Morris. If you thought you had to check on Morris a lot, you have to check on Shadow Cody a fuck ton more. This night is intense. Klaus is fast. He will be moving around your cameras, attacking you very quickly. And in addition to the incredibly aggressive Shadow Cody, it really serves to test the limits of your skills and your timings, easily being one of my favorite nights in this entire game, and being one of, if not my favorite boss fight night in any FNAF game I've ever played.
We're going to do wonderful things.
Before Beth can leave the building, she's caught by Klaus, and is never seen by another human being ever again. A local who goes by the name Bethany Hasters has been reported missing as of Sunday 5 a.m. Last seen at Cody & Co.'s Game & Grub Authorities have been searching the vicinity and its surrounding forest areas to deduct what could have occurred. There is no current suspicion of foul play, but a manhunt will be conducted within the week. Authorities state to have found her place of work in disarray, sparking suspicions of the suspect being inebriated or the like. In addition to this, the robot entertainers of the restaurant were found completely disassembled and damaged beyond repair. The company has yet to release a statement, but the resigning CEO has spoken with authorities and announces that the robots will be sent for repair at one of the company's sister facilities. This story is depraved, and trust me, there's a lot that goes into it. Long before the game takes place, Cody & Co.'s Game and Grub was meant to be a second chance, a reopening of a restaurant that had already failed once before, revived under the guidance of Warren Technology. On the surface, it was nothing special. A modest, arcade-style diner built around animatronic mascots, struggling to stay relevant in a world that had already moved on. But beneath that fragile revival was something unstable, something unfinished, quietly embedded into the building's systems. That presence became known as the anomaly. Employees noticed it first, small things at the beginning, strange glitches in the animatronics' behaviors, systems responding without being touched, errors appearing where none should exist. Management acknowledged it, but only as a technical problem, something to be observed, something to be measured, not something to be feared. By the time Bethany Hasters was hired as the night guard, the anomaly was already spreading. Bethany's job was simple on paper: work the overnight shift, monitor the building, and collect data on the anomaly's activity. Her first night begins on November 9th, 1997, and at first, the restaurant almost feels dormant, quiet, empty. But that stillness doesn't last long, because each night, the anomaly grows more aggressive, and it chooses its host one by one. The first animatronic to fall under its influence is Bella the Beaver. Once a friendly mascot, Bella becomes erratic, hostile, and unpredictable, her movements no longer matching her original programming. The following night, Morris the Mouse is corrupted as well, then Jack the Jackal. Each evening, another animatronic loses control, as if something is slowly rewriting them from the inside. All the while, the anomaly watches Bethany. By Thursday night, even Cody, the face of the restaurant itself, is no longer safe. His corruption marks a turning point. The anomaly has nearly overtaken the entire system. Whatever restraint once existed is gone, and by Friday, the restaurant's original code is on the brink of a total collapse. Behind all of this is Warren Technology, and more specifically, the company's founders, Daryl and Lonnie Warren. Years earlier, Daryl had been responsible for developing advanced animatronic technology, including a dangerous experimental suit known as the Flex suit. At some point, Daryl was betrayed and trapped inside that suit. Whether intentional or negligent, the result was the same. Daryl never escaped, and what remained of him became something else entirely. The anomaly. On Friday night, Lonnie Warren lies about a meeting, betrays another employee, and secretly releases what remains of Daryl from backstage confinement. By Saturday, the animatronics have been dismantled, but the threat hasn't ended. The anomaly has a body now, a form known as Klaus, and it is no longer bound to systems or code. It hunts Bethany directly. Saturday night becomes less about surviving malfunctioning machines and more about avoiding a conscious entity moving freely through the building. And if that wasn't enough, another presence emerges: Shadow Cody, a dark manifestation tied to the restaurant's collapse, appearing as an additional threat. In the end, Bethany doesn't escape. She's caught by Klaus and taken away, her fate left deliberately unclear. In the final cutscene, Daryl, still trapped within Klaus, offers her a gift, hinting that her story isn't over, and that whatever comes next will involve choice, consequence, and continuation. And that's where After Hours at Cody's leaves us. A restaurant reopened too late, a company that tried to bury its mistakes, and a presence that was never just a glitch, but the remains of someone who was never allowed to leave. But that's not where After Hours at Cody's comes to a close. Not quite yet. We still have something very interesting to talk about. If you go to the custom night menu after completing the final night, you will see a small chest icon in the bottom corner. Clicking on it will bring you to a FNAF 4 styled lock box with 2 padlocks. And rest assured, we can get the keys. The first key is locked behind 520 mode. If there's anything you guys know about me, it's that I'm absolutely terrible at Five Nights at Freddy's games. But you want to hear something crazy? I was actually able to beat this max mode, and I even did it on my first try. I would usually never even give a max mode a try, and at the time of playing it, I didn't know that beating it would give me a key. Does that let me unlock one of the boxes? Oh my god, it did! So the fact that I played it and beat it goes to show just how much I enjoyed this game, and I really think you guys will too. But what about the second key? Well, you get it by completing this game's second max mode, 220 mode with Klaus and Shadow Cody, which yes, I also beat, and yes, I also beat on my first try. I don't think this game is necessarily very difficult by any means, but I am still very proud of myself for actually doing it. And watching me play it over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, makes me look like I'm a lot better at these types of games than I really am. After completing both max modes, we can take the keys and unlock the box to find a very menacing looking character whose eyes turn on, a teaser for what will undoubtedly be a second game, and I believe that this character we see here is Bethany. But only time will tell. One last thing I want to talk about is something you can find in the extras menu. If you scroll through the characters until you find Klaus and hover over his face, you will see what I believe to be the rotting, decompiling corpse of Daryl. Truly one of the most disturbing images I've ever seen in a FNAF game. And with that, that's all After Hours at Cody's has to offer. Overall, I think this game is easily one of the most unique, interesting, and fun FNAF games I've ever played, right up there with how much fun I had playing Juniors. After Hours at Cody's really is a super fun experience with a gruesome, easy to follow story, and I highly recommend you give it a try. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think I'm just glazing this game because I was able to beat it? Let me know in the comments below. In my Remnants of Tubbyland video, I asked you guys what your favorite horror game from 2025 was, and my favorite answer was this one by Skeletons. They said, "No, I'm Not Human," and I totally agree. I absolutely loved that game, and you can see my full playthrough of it over on my third channel, Dxtr Gray, which a lot of people don't even know exists. Scopophobia is the irrational fear of being persistently stared at or watched. For most people, I feel being watched is one of those things that is just universally feared. Several forms of media have been made around it, from books to movies, and of course, horror games. But what about FNAF games? What is the scariest FNAF game you've ever played? And while playing it, did you get the strange feeling that you were being stalked? Banshee is a new FNAF fan game created by Kimarzuru and released fully on July 23rd, 2025. For a lot of people, the FNAF genre hasn't grown boring, but has lost a lot of the fear factor that it once had. I know for me personally that is the case. Sure, cheap jump scares will always startle people, but actually being scared is something that most FNAF games just aren't capable of doing anymore. Banshee, however, is different. Banshee isn't just scary, Banshee is horrifying. Grab a drink and get ready to jump into the rabbit hole that is Banshee, Five Nights at Freddy's most horrifying fan game. Banshee is a game heavily inspired by the original Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator, mainly taking inspiration from the night sections of that game, wherein instead of beating the night by surviving, you instead have to complete multiple tasks, making the length of the night dependent on you. Of course, when you think of Pizzeria Simulator, the very well-known salvaging sections may come to mind, and don't worry, Banshee has those too. Before every night, you will have to salvage a character in much the same way you do so in Pizzeria Simulator. On night 1, you have to salvage Springtrap. Pause. This design is actually horrific. This is gross. I haven't seen a model from a game that made me as uncomfortable as this one has in a long time. And trust me, they only get more grotesque and uncomfortable as we follow the White Rabbit. To salvage a character, you must first play an audio cue from the tape player in front of you. You can hold up the Miliguas, I don't know. to measure the animatronic's aggravation. As you play the audio, the meter will slowly rise, and having it stay on the highest setting for too long will result in a death. Additionally, your tape player may start to malfunction while the sound is playing. If you hear this, you must stop playing the tape for a few moments before turning it back on. The animatronics do not like when the tape player is broken. Once you have the animatronics aggression maxed, input some info into the computer, and it's on to the real night section. And let me tell you, if you thought the night gameplay from FNAF 6 was stressful, you're not ready for what's in store for you in Banshee. Night 1 introduces 2 characters. You may be wondering how that's possible since we've only scrapped one, and that's because one of the 2 characters was in your restaurant from the beginning, that threat being Yellow Bear. Ooh. Wait, am I not safe? Why do I get the feeling that I'm not safe? What the fuck was that? But before we can talk about the threats this night has to offer, we first need to talk about the tasks at hand and our environment. In our office, we obviously have a computer, as well as the doors to our left and right, and a window in front of us. Pressing Control will open up our computer, and this is where the first stressful mechanic comes into play. Unlike most FNAF games where you have your mouse as the main source of user input with the occasional control key, Banshee makes use of your entire keyboard. No, I'm not joking. Your computer has 2 screens, your command screen and your camera screen. You may notice you're unable to press any buttons on the camera screen that would allow you to see around the building. So, how do you see additional cameras? This is where your command screen comes into play. By typing the command CC and pressing enter, you will get access to your camera controls, which is obviously what the CC stands for, dumbass. You can then use your arrow keys to transfer up and down between cameras. No, you cannot use your arrow keys if your camera controls are not up, which means if you're working on something else like a task and need to check a different camera, you will need to type in the camera control command and then start sifting through the cameras. This is obviously stressful as fuck for a number of reasons. On later nights when things begin becoming more hectic, if you're not a fast typer or you can't remember where the keys on your keyboard are without looking, then this will pose a very obvious problem. I mentioned your tasks. What are those exactly? Well, you have 4 tasks you have to complete. Kind of. You don't actually have to complete any tasks to beat Banshee, as there still is a 12 to 6 a.m. timer. So, what's the purpose of the tasks? And to be truthful, the answer is that I don't really know. At the end of each night, it tallies how many tasks you've completed, and that seems to have something to do with how much money you get. So I'm assuming that the only downside is not having money for your tycoon, which is needed for the true ending. But there may be another reason I'm unsure of, and the wiki is no help. Anyways, back to the tasks. Task number 1 requires you to look at 2 items that are going to be shipped. You will have to check if both sides are identical. If they are, type Y and press enter. And if they don't match, press N and then enter. Do this 8 times and the task is complete. But if you ever mess up, you will have to start back from 0. This task is not challenging, but when paired with the other threats this game has to offer, it will quickly become stressful to even be able to manage this. Task 2 requires you to read an excerpt of who the fuck knows what, and either archive it or shred it. To keep it simple, if it's good press, archive it. If it's bad press, shred that bitch. Task 3 involves sitting on your fat lazy ass and waiting for a code to decipher, and then inputting the numbers and pressing enter. Task 4 is much the same, but instead of numbers, it's arrow inputs. And that's all the tasks, which means we can start talking about the threats that this night has to offer. The first of which being the one I mentioned earlier, Yellow Bear. While you never really actually see him, he does still attack you. Throughout the night, you will be able to see posters, drawings, and books around your office that start to change to say it's me. If too many of these anomalies occur, Yellow Bear will appear and kill you. In order to make these anomalies go away, you will need to look forward, not have your computer on, and close your eyes for who the fuck knows how long. When you open them back up, they should be gone. If they're not, close your eyes for longer next time, dumbass. Hands down, the easiest threat in this entire game. The other threat is obviously Springtrap, or as this game calls him, just Afton. Afton will walk around the cameras and make his way to your left door. When he's there, he will make no sound cues. Or at least, if he does make a sound cue, I was just never able to hear it. When he is there, all you have to do is turn at him and stare until he moonwalks back into the darkness. Again, some of the creepiest shit I've ever seen.
So where is he?
What the fuck was that? Oh my God, that's actually so fucked. Dude, that's actually so fucked up. That's actually so fucked, dude. Oh my fuck. Oh my fuck. And that's it. Either by completing all the tasks or surviving until 6 a.m., the night will be finished and we're safe to move on to night 2. Now, before we do that, this is where I should probably talk about the tycoon section of this game, but that whole pile of bullshit will be saved until later, because in my full playthrough, which you can see on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I butchered the tycoon sections so fucking horribly, you have no idea how badly I fucked them up. So I'll just save that for later. For now, we move on to Salvage 2. Salvage 2 is called Molten, who I originally thought was Ennard. And maybe it is, and this is just another case of the game giving it a different name. I'm not sure. Regardless, he is obviously the threat introduced on this night. So, how does he work? He actually has 2 different mechanics and methods of attack. The first is very similar to Afton, except he attacks from the right door instead of the left. Same thing for him, just look at him and he'll go away. However, once he goes away, he has a chance to initiate his second attack, which by the way can also happen at any time, not just when he leaves your office. Your lights will begin to flicker and an audible sound cue will be heard. This tells you that you need to very quickly find Molten on the cameras. God, is there a FNAF game in existence that doesn't have this fuck-ass mechanic? Whatever. Obviously, you'll probably be doing a task when this happens, so you'll have to type the camera control command and then start using the arrow keys to find him. When you do, you will need to type play and press enter, which will begin playing an audio lure on whatever camera you're looking at. This audio lure will make Molten piss off, which makes everyone happy. Overall, not too difficult. However, from what the community has said, Molten by far caused more deaths than any other character, and I can somewhat agree on that. Night 3 has a scrap Lefty, who in this game is a girl. Maybe Lefty was a girl in the original too? I'm not sure, not important. Lefty can prove to be a very frustrating character, but once you understand how she works, it really shouldn't be an issue. Lefty will very slowly move through the cameras to get to your office. However, if she gets to your office, she'll kill you no matter what. So you have to find a way to keep her from reaching you. Once she progresses to a camera, she will never move back. However, you can use the audio lure on whatever camera she's in to slow her down. This won't stop her from moving, but it will slow her progress dramatically. So much so that even on the hardest non-custom night she appears in, she only ever moved once for me. This obviously does bring up a conflict with Molten, but with how slowly Lefty moves, getting back to her camera in time to put the lure back on really shouldn't be much of an issue. Night 4 introduces the final new character, Baby. Baby is easily the most infuriating character throughout this entire game, and it's not even close. Baby will move through the cameras. Who the fuck cares? Once she's in your office, she will appear in the window in front of you. After a few seconds, she will either walk left or right. Depending on which direction she walks, you will have to close the door on the corresponding side. Something I didn't even know you could do up until this night. After you close the door, a small sound cue will play letting you know she's left, and then you can reopen the door. This doesn't sound too hard, I hear you saying. Well, I haven't told you about the bullshit butt-fuck wombo combo butt-bang strategy that she has. Basically, the bullshit butt-fuck wombo combo butt-bang strategy involves Baby doing a fucking fusion dance with Molten. And when they do, they decide it'd be really fucking funny to attack you at the same time, which, if you couldn't have guessed already, is literally an immediate loss, as both means of fending them off take up a decent amount of time. The amount of time it would take is enough to have the other butt fuck you in the ass, hence the name, bullshit butt fuck wombo combo butt bang strategy.
Hey, there's Baby up there. Oh. Yeah.
This is cooked. This is cooked. This is actually cooked. Bro, I'm fucked. I'm fucked. There's nothing I can do about that. I was pressing enter, you. That was just cooked. There was nothing I could do about that. I don't know how long I have to hold it for Baby. And he was on my ass. I really didn't know what to do there. Really didn't know what the option was. This is really the only huge RNG problem this game has, and it doesn't happen nearly as often as something like Toy Bonnie Vent AIDS does. Finally, we have Night 5, which is an interesting night, to say the least, as it's actually easier than Night 4. Sure, the animatronics are more aggressive, but I still think overall it's probably easier than night 4 is. No new threats are added, however, one of them is removed, that being Lefty. What is the reason for having Lefty not present on this night? I'm really not sure. So this night goes just about as well as you'd expect it to. And with that, the game is over. We get a final monologue from Henry as he burns down the building with us inside, mentioning how he didn't want us to go, but he needs to bring his daughter back. I'm gonna be honest, I don't give a fuck about this ending. You wanna know why? Because it's not canon in any way. Yeah, this is the bad ending, by the way. The true ending has a lot to do with the tycoon sections of the game. And god damn it, that means it's time for me to go over this bullshit. First, let's go over how I fucked up this tycoon section as hard as I did. When you first load up the game and open the tycoon section, this is what the tycoon looks like. Fantastic. Looks like we're going to build off of this. Pretty interesting and different from the original. Want to know the fucking hilarious part? The game expects you to press this button and erase your tycoon save data so that the tutorial for the tycoon section will begin playing. Does it tell you to do this? No. So why the fuck would I even think to do it? Sure, I pressed the button and saw the message to erase the save in my playthrough, but this is literally the first time I'm seeing the tycoon. Why in God's green fuck would I think to reset the data of the tycoon when I've never seen it look any different? I'm expecting to get comments calling me stupid for not figuring this out, but fuck you. You wouldn't buy a game, start the game up, and then think, actually, before I start playing this brand new game I've never played before and is brand fucking new, I should reset the save data for it first. You would never think of that. I'm sorry, this is just the most retarded thing I've ever seen. There is literally no indication whatsoever that I should reset the save. If there was indication, then there wouldn't be an issue, but there isn't. I'm just shown the tycoon and that's it. But hey, let's just relax for a moment and pretend like this part of the game actually makes sense. What exactly do you do? Well, you obviously go through the tutorial and learn how to play the tycoon, and then can get to building. And then from there, it's just Pizzeria Simulator. Buy things from the catalog and add them to your pizzeria to get points and level up. Fantastic! Completing the tasks during the nights will give you the money you need to buy more in the tycoon sections as well. Fantastic! Now, after completing night 1 is where the game starts to get a bit interesting. On the main menu after completing night 1, you will see this big red box. Clicking on it will reveal a statue of a Banshee. Turning it to its side will reveal a note describing that you need to look northwest to find a key. Wait one night and look again to find a door, presumably that the key would be used in. Going to your tycoon and scrolling all the way northwest, you'll be able to see a small red dot. Clicking on it will reveal a golden rose, which is presumably the key that was referenced in the note. Now, pause. I'm going to complain here again about how I fucked this up so badly. I had no idea that the map could be scrolled. Why? Because I was never taught in the tutorial, and I never saw the tutorial for reasons explained earlier. However, what I did do was click around the top northwest corner of the screen looking for this key. Clicking the big sign reveals a very dark red screen with some random text that'll become important later. So, this leads me to believe that this was the thing northwest that I was supposed to see. I thought I was doing the right thing. This series of coincidences is actually insane. Sure, there's no literal key here, but that led me to assume that the key was a metaphor for something else. Now tell me, would it be unreasonable for me to suspect some kind of retarded metaphor from a FNAF game? I don't think so, but whatever. After beating night 2, if you go back to the tycoon and press the red dot again, you'll see a golden pillar. Altar? I don't fucking know what this thing is. You can place the rose you got from the previous night there, which reveals a drawing of the marionette, the same drawing that you can see in your office above your computer. During night 3, if you click the marionette poster, you'll see what I believe to be a chair and a clock. I think. I have no idea what I'm looking at. You can push the chair underneath the clock and the pendulum of the clock will fall. You can then collect the pendulum. You will then get kicked out of the night back to the title screen. Clicking on the red box again will show the statue once more. You can then take the pendulum and place it into the stomach of the statue. Seriously, don't read into this too much. This is some fucked up Aoni type puzzle. Don't read into it, just accept it. After completing night 3, if you click the red box again, you'll get a cutscene. In it, you'll see clouds parting in the sky and a code appears behind them, along with the text, "The safe." Then you can go into your Tycoon, and instead of typing Tycoon into the directory, you can type Clown, which will start up a remake of the Clown minigame from Pizzeria Simulator. You can also play the Ball Pit minigame and Midnight Motorist. As I'm sure you could have guessed, the Midnight Motorist minigame actually serves some sort of importance. This minigame plays a lot differently than the original. It's a text-based adventure rather than a side-scroller. In it, you can walk around a forest and look at trees, something you all have never done before. Searching some of the trees, you can find a pendant. Walking to a lake, you can find an old man fishing. This person is who I assume to be Old Man Consequences. If you talk to him, he'll tell you the story of a girl who found a rabbit. The rabbit eventually dies and her father gets her to bury it. Later, she digs up the corpse only to find that the rabbit's fur had turned yellow. Oh my god, guys! Like Spring Bonnie, do you get it? Can you fucking believe it? Oh my god, I'm gonna bounce up and down, dropping my cheeks and testicles all over my desk! Oh yeah, you can also give the old man the pendant you found and he'll say that it belonged to her. Looking in some more trees, you can find blood-stained glasses. If you bring them to a man by a house, he'll tell you that they were your brothers. After beating Night 4, you should be able to buy the safe item from the Tycoon. We'll get to that later. Clicking on it will prompt you to type in a code. Typing in the code we saw in the cutscene earlier will open the safe, revealing a picture of a locked gate inside. After buying everything else in the Tycoon section, if you load the original version of the Tycoon and click the logo, you'll be sent to the gate. If you've done everything correctly, clicking on it will spawn you onto a boat. On the boat, you're told a story. Once again, I assume this story is being told by Old Man Consequences. He tells the story of Charlotte, Henry's daughter, the girl who was pushed outside of the pizzeria in the rain and left outside where she was later found dead. The story is abruptly ended by the line, "She isn't there anymore, Henry." Finally, if you've done everything properly and at the right times, when you enter Night 5, the puppet will be present, likely being the reason Lefty isn't there. The puppet acts as this game's final boss. So let's quickly go over her mechanics. The puppet can appear in any of your 2 doors. When she does, simply close the doors and she'll go away. Additionally, she will play a laughing sound cue. When she does, you must find her on the cameras and stare at her until she leaves. And as far as I'm aware, that's all that she does throughout this night. That may not seem like a huge issue, but of course, when paired with everything else and the bullshit buttfuck wombo combo butt bang strategy at the same time, this can be a very stressful night. But if you manage to beat it, you'll get one last cutscene. Michael Afton, alone in the suffocating darkness. He turns his lighter on, only to see the yellow bear, his own brother, staring back at him. Unable to look away, eventually even his brother leaves, leaving Michael truly alone. Knowing there's nothing left that he can do, Michael sets the building ablaze, killing himself while also allowing the souls, his brother, and Charlotte to rest. And with that, Banshee comes to a close. But hold up! Want to hear something awesome? If you remember, I said you have to get the safe in order to get the true ending. Well, I was chatting with the owner of the FNAF fan game wiki, City, and he told me that it is literally impossible to get the safe on your first playthrough, as it isn't possible to get enough experience to get to level 5. Since your Tycoon save and your game save are separate from each other, you can restart the main game and still save your Tycoon as it was, making it possible to reach level 5 and buy the safe on the second playthrough. I personally think this is one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. Forcing someone to play through the entirety of the game twice to get an ending is insane. Yes, I'm aware New Game Plus is a thing, and yes, I hate New Game Plus as well. But aside from that, this game is truly fantastic. From the visuals, to the gameplay, to the atmosphere, and of course, the amazing retelling of the FNAF 6 story, I think it is easily one of the best FNAF games of recent times, if not ever. Easy S-tier game, and I would highly recommend it. This game does such a perfect job of bringing the fear to this series that I feel it really needs. The story of Five Nights at Freddy's is grim, and the game should amplify that, not take away from it. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think Banshee is just overhyped slop? Let me know in the comments below. In my Tales of the Bunny Man video, I asked you guys what the most disturbing thing you've seen come out of a FNAF game was, and my favorite answer was this one by Pixel Swirl. They said Graveyard Shift at Freddy's as a whole. And of course, having the cannibalism and the fact that the animatronics aren't possessed but are in fact alive. And I couldn't agree more. I actually have a video covering that game on this channel. You should definitely watch it after this. I also realized I've never mentioned this, but I do have a merch store. You can find the link to it in the description, by the way. The lore of Five Nights at Freddy's fan games, something I'm typically not interested in. However, occasionally a fan game will come around that actually catches my attention, and the game we'll be covering today is one of those games. However, I actually didn't care about the story at all until I got to the third game. That's right, the game we'll be talking about today is a big one. 3 games in total to go over, and I promise there will be plenty of salt along the way. Join me today as we dive into the ups and downs of Five Nights at Maggie's. Maggie's doesn't throw us into a story right away, instead just starting how the original FNAF begins, with a newspaper of a job notice for a security guard. We take the job, not knowing who our character is, and jump right into the first night, where we can already talk about a game mechanic choice that I can't quite wrap my head around. First, let's talk about the office. It's so incredibly simple that it is somehow more basic than the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 office. You have 2 directions you can turn. One direction has the cameras, and the other side has a single door. Now let's talk about the mechanic that makes me question what the developer was thinking. How do you think the camera system operates? Maybe a camera map with buttons? Maybe using the arrow keys to surf through the cameras? All wrong. You have to use the number keys on your keyboard.
I have to use the number keys? Really? That's awful. I actually have to use, I can't touch the buttons with my mouse.
Let me tell you why this is so awkward. Because of your flashlight. Your flashlight is used to flash the doorway behind you and the vent underneath your desk. Your flashlight is controlled by your control key, and of course, because it's a FNAF game, you have to use your mouse for everything. So you have one hand to use 8 of your number keys and the control key. This leads to an overall awkward controlling experience, but that could just be a nitpick. It was just the first thing I noticed. Now, to talk about the characters that Night 1 introduces. Let's start with the main character herself, Maggie. Maggie is as basic as you can get in this game. Spoiler alert, all of these characters are basic. Maggie will move around the cameras and eventually make her way to your door. When she's there, all you have to do is hold the door closed until you hear her leave. This is where you'll notice something interesting about this game. There is no power system in this game. And if you think that it will be balanced somewhere else so that this generosity isn't easily abused, you would be wrong. You can hold the door closed the entire night. But we'll talk about the strategy of this game a bit later. The next character introduced on this night is Lola. Lola does the exact same thing as Maggie in the exact same way.
Kinda got fucking, you got an hourglass going. Lola is the best. In bed? What is wrong with me?
She even goes through the exact same cameras and is also dealt with by using the doors. Something you'll notice about later nights is that Maggie or Lola is pretty much consistently in your hallway at all times, leading to you needing to hold the door closed pretty much the entire night, forcing you to look at this stupid fucking John McAdam in the fucking eyes. The final character introduced on Night 1 is Banshee, the fat-ass pig, aka your mom. Banshee has a random chance to appear on any camera whenever you switch to one, acting exactly as Phantom Chica. If you look at him for too long, he will fuck your shit up like my buddy fucks up grilled cheese sandwiches. And let me tell you, that guy eats the shit out of grilled cheese sandwiches. However, once we talk about the ultimate strategy a bit later, you'll quickly learn how Banshee will pretty much never be a problem. Overall, if you know how to use your noggin a little bit, you may notice that all 3 of these characters can be dealt with by just holding the door closed the entire night and never doing anything. Hold your left click down, take a nap for 6 minutes, and then we'll start talking about Night 2. Night 2 introduces the final 2 characters this game has to offer. That's right, guys, it's about to get crazy. Not really, but let's talk about these 2 new assholes. Let's begin with Hank. Hank will try to enter the vent underneath your desk. Once he's there, he'll make a sound cue. Simply look under your desk and flash him with your light and he'll go away. However, there is a chance he will stay in the vent instead of going back to the stage, except the side effect is he will still make a sound cue when you have to flash him again, so this really isn't as scary as it sounds. Flower is the other character added on this night, and guys, come in real close for me. Would you believe me if I told you Flower was exactly the same as Hank? Well, guess what? She is. Quite literally the exact same mechanic. So nothing too much you'll have to worry about. There you go. That's every character in the game. Just kidding. I actually lied to you. There is one final character we have to talk about, except here's the thing. I don't know its name. I think it's Guppy, but that could be entirely wrong. Guppy appears on the cameras in camera 3. Guppy acts as this game's Foxy. You will have to watch him on the cameras to prevent him from moving. If he gets up and leaves, guess what? Dead. Ass souffle. However, since every main night after this one doesn't add anything new, it's time we talk about this game's disgustingly broken strategy. So, stay focused because it's super complicated. Basically, once the night starts, instantly turn to camera 3 to stall Guppy. Then turn around and hold the door closed, even if nobody is there. If at any point you hear a vent noise, quickly turn around and flash the vent. Then turn back around and hold the door closed again. There you go. You've just beat the game. This strategy successfully stalls Guppy, ignores Chanchy since you're never switching cameras, keeping the doors closed long enough that nobody will ever get in, and will handle the vent animatronics more than adequately. Nights 2, 3, 4, and 5 can all be handled using this strategy. This is by far this game's biggest downside. It is so easy that it's boring. The majority of this game is spent staring at this stupid fucker's face. I hate this guy's fucking smile. Look at this piece of shit. Ugly ass, fuck ass boy. John McAdams. More like John McFat-ums. Am I right or am I right? Yeah, I'm right, I know. You guys can laugh. No, you can laugh, it's okay. It's okay, I know I'm funny, it's okay. Now, you might have noticed I mentioned that strategy only works up to night 5, and that's because I lied again. There's another character we have to talk about that's integrated on night 6. I don't know his actual name, and fuck you, I'm just gonna call him Porky since that's what I called him in my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Porky Pig acts as this game's final boss character. Night 6 is impossible. Kind of. Porky Pig can attack both your door and your vent. He also moves at the speed of fucking sound. He will go from your door to your vent in the span of 2 seconds. Now, here's where it gets impossible, and the funny story that goes along with this. So, here's the hilarious extra mechanic with Porky. He can actually be at your door and in your vent at the exact same time. If he's at your door and you close it, you will hear him in your vent. Not there's a chance. No, you will hear him attack your vent. So you might think you should flash him in the vent. So you go to turn around. But the moment you let go of your door, you get fucked. What the fuck, dude? What the fuck is that? I hear the vent noise. I did not hear noise hearing him enter the hall. He's in the hall. If I open the fucking door, it doesn't matter where he is in the hall, he just fucking kills me. Since once again, he will be in both places at the same time. Dxtr, that doesn't sound very fun at all. Well, listen to this. Apparently, I played a version of the game where Night 6 was broken, as I received a comment from the game's developer telling me so. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. So what actually happens if you beat Night 6? We get one final newspaper article explaining that the owner of Maggie's, Robert Madden, was found dead in his office from a shot to the head. Of course, since we were the only ones left in the building, we are the main and only suspect. We also learned in this newspaper that our name is Stephen Cadell. The article finishes off by informing the public that the pizzeria's new owner will be Robert's son, who isn't named. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this seems like the perfect murder for a son who really wants to take over his father's restaurant. I'm not throwing any fingers, but I'm just saying, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what this ends up being. Now, you may think I got through this game really quickly, and that's because I did. Five Nights at Maggie's 1 is an incredibly easy and boring game. However, it does pave the way for the super interesting story that the rest of the series tells. So if you can get over that, then we can talk about Five Nights at Maggie's 2. And I promise, these games are only going to get more and more interesting. Let's dive down the rabbit hole. Five Nights at Maggie's 2 is significantly more interesting than the first game in terms of actual gameplay. To start, there are more than two things to look at. This time, on your desk, you have your cameras and a vent. To your left, you have a big hallway, and to your right, you have Guppy sitting dead as fuck in the corner. Want to hear something really great? The cameras in this game also have vent cams. Isn't that just awesome? Just kidding, I know it isn't. In terms of new characters, there really aren't any, just the returning characters from the first game, except this time, they're all withered. Night 1 introduces 3 threats. Let's start with the most basic of the bunch, that being Maggie herself. Maggie will wander around the cameras in an attempt to get to you through the hallway on your left. Once she enters your hallway, she will make a sound cue letting you know that she is there. When she is, you will have to turn to the hallway, pull up your shock button, and shock the hallway to make her piss off. Except you want to hear something really funny? Maggie has the chance to not leave the hallway when you flash her. Why? Because fuck you, I guess. I really dislike blatant RNG mechanics like this in games. It's the same reason why I hate Five Nights at Freddy's 3 and its bullshit 1 in 7 dick that it pulls. So maybe you don't want to have to deal with the chance of that RNG AIDS. Can you stop Maggie from reaching your hallway? Well, yes, actually you can. Inside of the cameras, you will find a play sound button, which, as the name suggests, will emit a sound on whichever camera you use it on. Maggie does not like this sound, so if you use it on the camera she's on, she will move backwards. Except I actually just lied to you. Remember how I said this was a way to avoid the stupid fucking RNG that Maggie pulls at the door? Well, guess what, fucker? That's right, she pulls the same RNG bullshit in the cameras too, except somehow it's even worse. Maggie has a chance to move forward a camera instead of backwards a camera when the sound button is used, actually making her progress to your hallway even faster. Isn't that just what you want? Hey, I just fucking sounded you, asshole. Don't act like I wasn't on top of that shit. So the way to deal with Maggie comes down to just completely ignoring her in the cameras and letting her attack your hallway, since you're going to have to deal with the RNG regardless. You might as well just put your focus somewhere else and only focus on her when you hear her in the hall. The second character Night 1 introduces is Banshee. Wanna guess what he does? If you said the exact same thing as Maggie, you'd be absolutely right. And the best part? He also has the chance to be a complete dickhead and ignore everything all the time. Wanna shock him out of your hall? Well, maybe he's feeling like keeping his fat ass right there. Wanna prevent him from parking his fat ass right there with the sound button? Well, maybe he's feeling like getting to your hallway even faster. Fuck it. Okay, fine. So another character that's better off being ignored until an attack. That's not so bad. What about the final threat, Dxtr? Is that one any different? Yes, actually. The final threat introduced on Night 1 is Guppy. I fucking hate Guppy so much it isn't even funny. If you remember, Guppy is in the office with you to your right. Throughout the night, Guppy will try to... how do I say this? Slide his fingers down your crack? Hey, back the fuck up. Back the fuck up, Miss Missy. I tabbed out of the fucking game. The way you stop him is simple. Occasionally check on him and flash your flashlight at him to make him move backwards. The reason why I hate him so much, he makes no noise whatsoever. Not a single peep from this motherfucker right here, and he moves fast, especially on later nights. This guy is so fast, it's infuriating, and because he makes no noise, he's even easier to forget about. I hate him, he is buns, hot ass, shitty robot. But overall, Night 1 isn't too bad. So let's move on to Night 2, which introduces 3 new threats: Hank, Flower, and Lola. Let's start with Hank and Flower since they both do the exact same thing. These two take advantage of your vents, crawling through them to attack you via the giant vent directly in front of you. If you see them in the vents, you can close whichever vent they're in. When you do, they too can choose to RNG fuck your ass instead of cooperating. The ideal situation will have them go back to the stage, but in all likelihood, it's much more common for them to go, nuh-uh, and just move to another fucking vent. Isn't that just so awesome? What's the point of even closing the fucking vent if they're just gonna phase through it? Fuck it, I don't care. Here's something really sick about these guys. Once they enter the big vent, that doesn't mean you lose. If they get to the vent in front of you, if you just stare at them for a few seconds, they will go back to the stage. So this brings up another flaw in this game's design. Using the close vent door button is completely useless against these two, because you can deal with them so much more easily by just allowing them to attack and looking at them. So why even bother checking the vent cams for them at all? Well, whatever. What about Lola? What could she do? Well, she acts as a Phantom Chica type of character. She will appear on the cameras randomly. If you stare at her for too long, she will pile drive towards your office through your vents to attempt to kill you. However, you may have noticed a slight flaw. We've already established that there is no need to check the cameras whatsoever. Maggie and Chansey are easily dealt with by letting them attack the hallway, and Hank and Flower are easily dealt with by letting them attack your vent. So is Lola ever a problem? No, and even if she was, when she gets to the vent in front of you, if you just literally look in any direction that isn't directly at her, she will go back to the stage. So again, yet another character that doesn't even need to be worried about. If she's in your vent, just don't look for a few seconds. Sure, she will also disable your cameras for a little bit when she attacks, but we've already established your cameras are pretty much a fucking rock, so that really doesn't matter. Something interesting about Maggie's games is that they don't have any post-night bullshit nobody cares about. So we can just get right into night 2, where we can talk about the first legitimate threat of a character. Porky Pig. Remember him? Yeah? The guy that made my version of Maggie's One Impossible? Which, by the way, I found out in this game, his name is actually Surdy. Needless to say, I already had some pretty bad blood with this guy. But how bad could he really be, right? Very. Let me just tell you, he can be very bad. Surdy can take the approach of every character we've seen so far except Guppy. He can attack both your hallways and your vents. Fuck the hallway attack, it's dealt with in the same way as Maggie and Chansey, and yes, also has the same bullshit RNG, so does his camera movements. What we really want to talk about is Surdy in the vents, because that's where he becomes a bitch. When Surdy is in the vents, you need to be in full-blown panic mode. Oh god. Oh god, oh god, oh god. Even the game knows how much of a problem Surdy in your vent is, because it literally gives you a fucking warning on your cameras letting you know exactly which camera he's in. Obviously, if there's not a brain in your head, you have to close the vent until he goes away. And now's the time I should mention how these vent doors actually work, and why they make me want to shove a pencil down my urethra and snap it in half. Since there is no power in this game, there obviously has to be some nerf to these doors, but the nerf chosen just makes me piss blood. But that also might be from the pencil, I'm not sure. If at any point you pull down the cameras, the door will open. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. What really makes me want to die is that the door will open even if you switch cameras. So when a door is closed, you're locked in looking at it until whatever is inside leaves. And let me tell you about that. These fat motherfuckers don't move a goddamn inch! Literally, these fuckers will sit there in those vents with the doors closed for what feels like a fucking eternity. And on later nights when Guppy turns into a fucking track star, it makes it really easy to clench your legs so hard and your testicles shatter into 32 small ass pieces. Fuck me in my ass. I was literally turning to you. Literally was turning to you. I got stuck. I was fucked, dude. I was fucking everything had to be fixed. The sound had to be fixed. The fucking vents had to be fixed. My dick had to be fixed. Fixed as fuck. Because you can't just stare at him in the vent to make him piss off like you can with the other vent characters, if he gets to you, your Dunyan rings. Completely Jover. But surely this game can't get any more bullshit, right? Surdy was the last character introduced from the first game,
And Dxtr already said that there wasn't any new characters, and Dxtr wouldn't lie to me. He's a YouTuber, and a YouTuber has never lied before, right? Hate to break it to you, Buster. I lied. Night 4 introduces Jerry, the blue fucker. Who the fuck is Jerry? Well, let me tell you about Jerry. Have you ever thought to yourself, golly gee, one Surdy is already a headache to deal with. If only I could add another one. Well, if so, then you're in luck. Did you like one fucking Surdy in your ass? Why not two? Because that's exactly what Jerry is. Surdy 2.0. Except there's one key detail that doesn't really matter, but does just show Jerry was supposed to be the most AIDS character of all time. He's not even affected by the sound button, period. So there was quite literally no way to stop him. And he is fast, like really fucking fast. If he gets to your hallway and decides to bullshit RNG you, guess what, fucker? Game over, because by the time your shock recharges, you'll be dead. But in all honesty, that's not even the worst part. The worst part is without a doubt the fucking Tyson gay guppy over there in the corner. You piece of fucking shit! This motherfucker is so goddamn cocksucking fast it hardly seems fair! Everyone in Night 5 is so fucking fast they will be sharding in your eyes from the moment you start the night. But the only place they aren't fast? The fucking vents that you can't look away from lest the doors open wide, allowing for any cold metallic robot to penetrate me in the ass and rupture my colon! Fuck! Fuck! Not to mention that Night 5 is so fucking loud, you won't be able to focus on the sound cues whatsoever. I gave up on Night 5. I don't care. This night was bullshit. This game was bullshit. Butt plug. Heart attack inducing fuck. So no, I didn't beat it. I'm not going to beat it. I'll beat my dick, but let's pretend like I did beat it. What happens then? Well, you get given Night 6, which is even fucking harder. Just a full-blown ass pounding with you as the main victim. I'm glad I didn't make it this far. I'm glad I chose to piss off when I did, because the rate at which all of my teeth would have been plucked out of my skull would have been astronomical had I forced myself through this AIDS. What about beating Night 6? Has anything amazing happened? No, not really. And that's the most upsetting part. We get a final newspaper clipping explaining that the building we were in burned down for an unknown reason. The only suspect is, of course, once again us, since we were the only ones in the building at the time. We also learn that everything was salvaged in the fire and will be used for a new attraction later down the line. So that would lead you to think, how shitty was that fire that everything was salvaged? Must have been a pretty piss poor fire. Perchance a fire started by a person? Very interesting thought, dear viewer. Let's keep our theory heads turning and move on to the next game. But wait, Dxtr, what about that text that says fake ending in the corner? Well, to be honest with you, I have no idea why that's there. I've been unable to find any evidence of another ending existing in this game, and my only thought is that the third game is meant to serve as the actual true ending. Not only to the story, but to my suffering, because I actually really liked the third game, and I think you will too. So please, let's stop talking about this fucking slop and move on to something a lot more appealing in Five Nights at Maggie's 3. Five Nights at Maggie's 3 is nothing short of a masterpiece, truly a stark contrast from the two games we've touched on so far. I was honestly incredibly surprised by the amazing step up in quality that this game brought to the table, not only in terms of story, but also in terms of graphics, and most importantly to me, game mechanics. To start, Maggie's 3 opens to a repair minigame. We're tasked with charging up Maggie. We have to open up her chest, snip some wires, and charge them up. Seems simple enough. You'll notice during this minigame that you're able to turn around to see a dark void of a room behind you that you can flash with your light. But you'll also find that nothing is ever there. After charging up Maggie, we're shown 7 rectangles. One of them fizzles out, symbolizing what I can only assume to be the souls of some dead children, even though child murder hasn't even been mentioned in this series so far. But we're not done yet. We're tossed into a minigame directly after this.
A man covered in blood walks into a room, explains he needs to hide again, saying he's trapped here and he won't go anywhere. Not knowing who he is, we're thrown into Night 1. Night 1 actually only introduces one threat, that being Lolo, a new character. But before we can start talking about characters, we need to talk about this office and the tools at our disposal. We have 2 doors. Finally, something we can be familiar with. These work the exact way you'd expect them to, so nothing weird there. Of course, we have our cameras, but you might notice something a little bit different about them. There are 3 menus to surf through on your monitor, and only one of them are your typical cameras. The other menus are your main vent and your breakers. The main vent allows you to look at and shine the main vent, and the breakers allow you to remotely turn off the power to the entire building and specific cameras. But we'll talk about why those are important later. The final interesting mechanic is the vent door button on one of your cameras, but that will become important once we talk about 2 certain rascals later in this video. For now, we have to talk about Lolo. Lolo is as simple as a character can get. He is this game's Bonnie. He will move through the cameras and approach your right door. When he's there, simply close the door until you hear him leave, and bada bing bada boom, that cycle will repeat. Again, it's Night 1, I don't think you expected anything crazy. Now we can talk about the post-Night 2 repair minigame. This time having to repair Bob. Side note, every character in this game aside from 2 are brand new. Same formula as the last minigame, except this time there's actually something in that darkness behind you. Surdy. But this time, it's just his endoskeleton. No mom skin. Your mom specifically. Get it? Because she's a pig? Oink. He will slowly try to creep up on you to kill you. Whenever you hear him, simply turn around and hold your light on him to make him go back. He's very slow these first few nights, but trust me, these minigames can get a little out of control on later nights. After completing the minigame, another rectangle fades away and we get another 8-bit cutscene. This time we see 2 men. One of them goes to make coffee while the other sits to read the newspaper. He begins to read about a serial killer dubbed the Frankenstein. Hearing that name makes the man at the counter freeze. He knows something. After 8 years of silence, the serial killer has re-emerged, taking the life of a 16-year-old boy. The body was found in the John McAdams warehouse, the same building that Five Nights at Maggie's 2 took place in. The man reading the newspaper, named Steve, mentions he thought John himself was the killer, but thinks that it could maybe be his son Henry, who had apparently been missing. He mentions Henry killed someone, but before he can get out exactly who he killed, the man at the counter, named Aaron, asks him to leave. After Steve leaves, Aaron goes over to the table to look at the newspaper, mentioning how he didn't stop and that this isn't over, not mentioning who he actually is. And with that, we go right into Night 2. Night 2 introduces 4 new animatronics. However, it's actually really only 3, and I will obviously be explaining why, since I'd be a pretty shitty reviewer if I didn't. To start, let's talk about Rolf. A very stupid name, by the way. Rolling on the floor laughing ass animatronic. Damn, he got a dick on him though, look at that! Rolf is the first character to take advantage of your main vent camera. You will be able to hear him enter it. Thank God for sound cues, they're honestly probably my favorite part of FNAF games at this point. When you hear him in the vent, simply go to it and hold your light on him until he goes away. Very simple character with a very simple mechanic, but in my opinion, the simple mechanics are the best mechanics, because it allows for your whole roster to not feel completely unfair while dealing with all of them. The next character introduced is Bob the Pig. He works the exact same way as Lolo, except he attacks your left door instead of your right. Really nothing else super interesting to note for this character, just this game's Chica. The other 2 characters introduced on this night are Esther and Lester. These 2 animatronics always stay together, which is why I say they're really just one animatronic. They take advantage of the other vent that you can't see on camera 7. Once again, they make a sound cue when they're trying to enter the cam 7 vent. All you have to do is close the vent on that camera and they will quickly go back to their stage. Again, incredibly easy characters to deal with, but from my personal experience, were the easiest to miss. Night 2's post-night repair minigame has us fixing up Lolo. Nothing special. But I do want to talk about the cutscene that Night 2 brings. 2 siblings named Henry and Stacy stop outside of a Maggie's location. Yes, this is the Henry that was mentioned in last night's cutscene. They had a conversation about their mom who died after Stacy was born. It's revealed that their dad works a lot, but we're not told what. It's also hinted that their dad doesn't love Henry in the same way that he loves Stacy. Night 3 introduces the first real, honest threat I think this game has. That being this funny-looking green fellow. You want to take a guess at what his name is? If you said Chomper, you'd be completely fucking wrong because his name is Cracky. Excuse me? Cracky? What a fucked up name. I don't actually know literally any of these characters' names. I know Maggie and I guess Bob now. I'm gonna guess this is Crackle. Fucking on Crackle. I know, I'm hilarious. What can I say? This is what I do for a living. I play Five Nights at Freddy's for a living. For a job. This is my job. Isn't that weird? That's fucking weird. But whatever. Why do I feel this guy is actually a threat? Well, that's because he is this game's first integration of a watch me on the camera mechanic. A mechanic that, if you're familiar with my channel, you know I'm not a huge fan of. You cannot allow Cracky to leave the stage or you will be split open like a double wide surprise. That is fucked, by the way. This looks so fucked. Obviously, all you have to do is stare him down on the cameras, which is not very challenging. But because of a certain character we'll talk about later, Cracky will very quickly become a big problem that you will probably forget about. I want to use this time to talk about the power situation in this game. Being the first in the series to actually use power, I was a bit nervous this would be another SCP endurance case where you have absolutely no power throughout the entire game. But to my surprise, it was actually the complete opposite. You actually have a ridiculous amount of power in this game. So much so that for the first few nights, I had the cameras up the entire night, while also closing the Cam 7 vent the entire time as well, and still completed the night with a decent amount of power remaining. You do not have to think about power conservation in this game, which I really appreciate. Night 3's post-night repair minigame has us repair Cracky, and it's on this night that Surdy really starts to get quick. So this is probably the point of these segments where they will start to take a long time to complete. The cutscene that plays after this segment is one of the most disturbing I've seen since Five Nights at Candy's 3. Stacy and her dad are in the dark talking to one another. Stacy mentions how scared she is. Her dad gives her a sleeping pill, explaining that after she wakes up, she'll feel better than she ever has before in a brand new body. After Stacy falls asleep, a shock lights up the room, revealing that Stacy had been electrocuted to death. Attempting to cement her soul inside of one of the machines, his experiment fails, and he's left to cry alone inside of the room with his daughter's corpse. This is easily one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game. Not because of what we directly see, but because of the idea of what John did to his own flesh and blood. Five Nights at Maggie shows proof that you can tell stories about incredibly horrendous things in an interesting and not overtly edgy way. With all of the shortcomings I feel this game series has, I can easily say that the story is not one of them. Moving on to Night 4, we're introduced to the two final characters this game has to offer, Maggie and of course, Surdy. Let's start with Maggie since she's simple. She works in the exact same way that Rolf does. She attacks through your main vent. All you need to do is hold a flashlight on her and she'll go away. Now we can talk about the big bastard himself, Surdy, who once again, in this game is just an endoskeleton. This guy right here is this game's big challenger. Surdy makes use of your breakers. Occasionally, he will appear on any camera in the building. When he does, he will emit a loud sound. You will have to shut off the breaker to the room he's in, which will deactivate him. This is not difficult. What is difficult is when Surdy is paired with Cracky. With how frequently Surdy will attack, Cracky will very easily be able to get several movement opportunities in on you, leading to you needing to stare at him for longer while the rest of the cast does all of their bullshit. But once again, because of how simple everyone's mechanics are, it serves to make this game tense, but not overtly difficult. Don't get me wrong, I think it's great that max modes exist, and that people are pushing the limits of what's possible with Five Nights at Freddy's games. But not every game needs to be the most difficult thing on planet Earth. Some games just really want to tell a story, and I can appreciate this game for doing so. After beating Night 4, we repair Rolf, and of course get a new cutscene. Henry, now with the alias Stephen Cadell, which if you remember is the name of the player we played as in the first Maggie's, walks into the CEO of Maggie's office with a gun. The CEO, if you remember, named Robert Madden. He reveals he knew that his real name was Henry, reveals that he knows what Henry did and admits he still never fired him for fear of tarnishing the brand for hiring a fugitive. I'll dive into exactly what Henry did when I talk about the lore later in this video. Henry demands to get his father's experiment files, and when Robert refuses, Henry shoots him in the head. This is the situation that was mentioned at the end of Five Nights at Maggie's 1. Night 5 introduces nothing new, just being a harder version of Night 4. After completing it, you fix both Esther and Lester, and of course, we get another cutscene, which is also pretty disturbing in nature. John McAdams, expecting to see his son home by 11, is still working on his project. Henry, his son, walks in at 12 completely plastered. Henry begins to gaslight his father for not caring about his own children and claims that he's responsible for killing Jason, a brother that up until this point we hadn't heard of. John reveals that he used his animatronics to revive his children from the dead because he loved them. Henry, not knowing any of this had been taking place up until this point, is obviously incredibly upset. Henry ends up killing his father in a fit of rage, and John McAdams' soul is accidentally revived in the animatronic of Surdy. That's right, the final boss of the first 2 Maggie's games was Henry's dad. So now we have to question, why would his dad be trying to kill him? Once again, Night 6 adds nothing new, just being more difficult than the last. The repair minigame, however, is different. There are no more characters to repair. The only character who remains is Surdy. You must wait for him to appear behind you and shock him. After shocking Surdy, we get something I never expected when I first started playing these games. We get an amazing monologue right up there with the Henry speech from Pizzeria Simulator. I don't want to explain it to you, I'd rather you listen to it. But before I show you it, I think it's time I finally dive into the lore of this game. Our story begins on May 25th, 1975. John McAdams, founder of John McAdams Entertainment, discovers what he believes to be immortality. He hides his experiments behind his company, using the animatronics as a cover for something much more horrifying: the merging of human life with machines. And what better way to test that theory than on your own son? Jason McAdams, age 3, becomes John's first experiment. On June 3rd, 1978, the experiment works. Jason's body moves again, but not like a human. He's primitive, lifeless, hollow. John calls him a success, a prototype, the first step towards eternal life. But it's not enough. John continues his work, kidnapping orphans, experimenting on them, filling his creations with broken souls. The police start investigating, but John's too careful and nothing sticks. Everything he's done stays buried until tragedy strikes his own family. On June 2nd, 1981, John's daughter Stacy is hit by a car after chasing a balloon into the street. She's brought back to her father, barely alive, and John sees another chance. He tries to revive her using the same process that brought Jason back. It fails, and what's left of Stacy dies in his arms. In Five Nights at Maggie's 1, you can actually hear John crying during one of the tapes. That is this moment. A year later, everything falls apart. On August 26, 1982, John's last surviving son, Henry, comes home drunk, furious, covered in stains, and done with his father's bullshit. He accuses John of killing his siblings, of caring more about his machines than his family, and for once, he's right. John tries to justify it, saying he only wanted to bring them back, that he did this because he loved them, but Henry heard enough. He kills his father right then and there, but death doesn't stick in this family, because the next day, John wakes up again inside the Surdy animatronic. His experiment worked, but at the cost of his own humanity. The man who wanted immortality finally got it, but in the most twisted way imaginable. Years pass, and Henry goes into hiding under a new name, Stephen Cadell. On May 3rd, 1985, he takes a job at Maggie's Magical World as a night guard, seemingly just looking for cash. But through old VHS tapes, he learns the horrifying truth. His father is still alive inside Surdy. Henry tracks down Robert Madden, the new CEO of John McAdams Entertainment, and demands his father's research. Robert admits he's known who Henry really is this entire time, but never fired him because it would tarnish the company's image. So Henry does what the McAdams family does best. He kills him. He stands on business. But even that isn't the end. In 1992, a new serial killer surfaces. The media calls him the Frankenstein. Victims are found mutilated, fused with machine parts, and all signs point to one name: John McAdams. Somehow, he's still out there, using the Surdy suit to continue his experiments. Henry, now under yet another alias, Aaron Meyer, realizes his father will never stop, and if he can't destroy him, he has to contain him. But this story isn't just about the McAdams family. Around the same time, another branch of the company is causing problems of its own. Back in 1980, two men were hired to perform as Springlock entertainers at a restaurant called Surdy and Jerry's. They were taught how to use the suits by Daniel Gennaro, the son of the restaurant's founder, Manuel Gennaro. When Manuel died, Daniel took over and rebranded the place into Guppy's Magical World, adding new characters like Cracky and Guppy. Everything was fine until 1988, when both performers suffered Springlock failures live on stage. One jumped off mid-performance, the other tried to save him, and both ended up crushed inside their suits. They die instantly, only to possess the animatronics they performed in. Daniel, being the charming piece of shit he is, mocks their death, saying the only real problem the company would ever have is if kids went missing. And sure enough, soon after, they do. Surdy and Jerry, now possessed, start killing children, souls that would later inhabit Maggie, Lola, and Chanchy in the first two games. Eventually, in 1990, a sister location called Maggie's Magical World opens and the pattern repeats. More kids vanish, and an investigator, our playable character, takes a job trying to uncover the truth. Each night, we explore a different location, finding drawings, blueprints, newspaper clippings, everything pointing towards what's really been happening behind the scenes. By night 4, we find a hidden room behind the show stage. It's filled with evidence and notes from a previous investigator, the same one who went missing. When we report everything to our boss, he fires us, calls us crazy, and closes the case. So we leak the evidence online, the internet takes over, and the investigation reopens, exposing both Maggie's and Guppy's for what they really were. It's later revealed that everything we did, everything we learned, was told to us by Surdy himself. He's old, broken, but aware. A robot reflecting on his past life, telling us how everything fell apart. It's one of the most haunting story choices in any Five Nights at Freddy's game I've ever seen. But it's not just about what happened, it's about who's left to remember it. Decades pass. It's now May 10th, 2021. Henry McAdams returns one final time to the same company that destroyed his family. But this time, he's not there to work. He's there to end everything. Having studied his father's research, Henry manipulates Surdy's systems to lock his father's soul inside of the metal shell permanently. No voice, no movement, no escape. After nearly half a century of murder, obsession, and tragedy, John McAdams is finally forced to face eternity, the very thing he was chasing all along. And that's what makes this story so fascinating. Five Nights at Maggie's isn't just another FNAF clone. It's a full-blown tragedy about legacy, obsession, and consequence. A father chasing immortality, a son chasing redemption, and both of them becoming monsters in the process. It's poetic, it's grim, and for a fan game, it's shockingly well told. John McAdams may have discovered immortality, but in the end, he lost everything that made him human. And Henry, he may have stopped his father, but he had to become just like him to do it. So, before we listen to that final monologue, just remember this. No one in this story found eternal life. They just found eternal suffering. 19 years. 19 years trying to stop you. 19 years studying your findings. Your horrible experiments. The immortality you were seeking all this time. And I did it. I made it work. Let me tell you, I was about to give up, but you made a bad choice to try it one last time. Lester Arias. That death,
That was the last straw. That's how I knew that you were not going to stop. Not even in that body. I've been studying your blueprints and analyzing your tapes for longer than I can remember. And let me tell you, you made quite a few mistakes. Yes, you did achieve immortality with full consciousness in your body. But still, your movements were limited. Being sensitive to light, to sound. I thought John McAdams was smarter than that. Don't worry. Your son, the failure, the disgrace to the family, fixed all those problems for you and finally made it work. Or something like that. You see, I didn't want the kids to be in those bodies. They deserved a better life. They deserved a normal childhood. Play with kids their age, go to school, and socialize like normal human beings. You took that away from them a long time ago. They deserved to rest, once and for all. Jason and Stacy. They are resting from the hell you put them through. All of them, finally free. But for you, I had a very special plan. I didn't know if I should show all the things you've done to the world. On one hand, it would have brought peace to the people who were still terrified of the dreaded Frankenstein. But I decided to keep your reputation intact. You are still the great John McAdams. To some extent. Most people have forgotten you after the company went under a couple of years ago. I knew that if I brought this to light, your name would make a comeback, and I didn't want to give you the pleasure. That's why I decided to grant you your wish of immortality, but with a little twist. I wanted to make sure you feel the hell that you put Jason, Stacy, and all the other kids through. So, I added a few changes. You won't be able to speak. You won't be able to move. You will have no control over your body. You will still see, feel, and hear everything. You will live for eternity inside that machine with nothing more to do but see how your work, your name, and your wish of being remembered like some kind of god vanishes like the figments of some bad dream. You won't rest. You will suffer for eternity. It's time you pay for your sins, John.
And there you have it. As far as I'm aware, that is everything that Five Nights at Maggie's has to offer. A game series that started off on a sour note for me and ended up becoming one of the most interesting and engaging stories I've ever experienced. I'd highly recommend you give the third game a try, as it is actually a very enjoyable game. The jump in quality between these games is astonishing, and it's so clear that the developer poured everything they had into it, and that's something I can totally appreciate. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think that this series was actually complete perfection the entire way through? Let me know in the comments below. In my SCP Endurance video, I asked you guys who your favorite SCP was and why. My favorite comment was this one by Maincrack. They said SCP-001, and I agree. Honestly, one of the coolest SCPs ever designed, and of course, an absolute classic. After the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the only other times we see the toy animatronics are in a box in FNAF 3 and Ultimate Custom Night. But what actually happened to them to cause them to appear in the box in Five Nights at Freddy's 3? Well, the game we'll be covering today aims to answer that. Today, we'll be looking at Fazbear Entertainment Storage, a game that was originally actually never meant to be a game in the first place. But after seeing what it has to offer, I think you'll be happy that the game was made. I know I was. Join me as we enter the storage facility where the toy animatronics from Five Nights at Freddy's 2 were stored before being scrapped. And if you stick around, you'll find out why they were ever even scrapped in the first place. Clapping my ass cheeks into night 1, we begin with a phone call as typical. The man on the phone introduces himself as Henry, and I can only assume that this is the Henry from the official FNAF games. He tells us that we're needing to watch the animatronics in the storage facility. They've been decommissioned, but he says he has a reason to believe that someone has been sneaking in and tampering with the animatronics in an attempt to reactivate them for an unknown reason. We actually have a few different tools at our disposal, and I'll explain them as they become relevant. On night 1, the only characters are Toy Bonnie and the one I would let choke me out until I'm at the brink of death, as long as she did it with her feet, Toy Chica. Both of these animatronics are very simple in their mechanics, but together they show off two incredibly important mechanics this game has to offer, that being your ceiling vent and your mask. Let's start with Toy Bonnie. I'm not going to be explaining most of the animatronics' movement patterns because who really cares where they go when they're not in your office? Bonnie will attack you from your left vent. A sound cue will be played to let you know he's there, which is something that I praise God for every day of my life. Put that fucking mask on right now. Oh my God. Yo, that was sick. Did you see that? No shit, you saw it. You were looking right at it. Why the fuck did I say that? That was a very stupid thing to say. I love sound cues. When Bonnie enters her vent, you can check to make sure he's there by using your flashlight. You need to be careful because like Five Nights at Freddy's 2, your flashlight has a power supply, and using it too much will cause it to die. You know, like a flashlight does, dumbass. When you confirm Bonnie is in your vent, all you have to do is throw on your Freddy mask. This makes a lot of sense since these are literally the characters from the second official game. Of course, in typical fuck-ass, stupid-ass, dumb-ass Toy Bonnie fashion, instead of just leaving like a normal person, he'll enter your office and just kind of stare at you like a dunce for a while. Which I will add looks really fucking sick. I love how newer fan games like this are adding detailed animatronics to their characters in situations where typically they would just be a still image. It's one of the reasons I really liked Graveyard Shift at Freddy's too. Now let's talk about Toy Chica, aka G-Baroni and Cheese. Chica attacks from your ceiling vent, which you can see is accompanied by a vent door. Ooh. Oh my God, holy shit. This is probably the point in time where I should talk about the building's power supply. The storage facility has a power supply similar to Five Nights at Freddy's 1, where doing certain actions causes it to drain. Luckily for us, the cameras do not cause any power supply to drain, so you can use them as much as you want to watch Toy Chica walk around the map. You little fucking goonaholics. Oh my God, she's huge. Mama. Closing this ceiling vent causes the power to drain, and closing the vent is also how you keep Chica out. Through sound cues, you'll be able to hear her enter the vent. You can do this by toggling the cameras to your vent cams. If you look closely, you'll be able to see her hiding behind one of the vent fans. If you're nervous about these vent cams, by the way, don't worry. You don't need to be concerned about these. Yet. Once Chica does appear in your vent office with another fantastic animation, all you need to do is close the vent. And after what is sometimes a really long time, she will leave. Again, that's all this night has to offer. So let's hot bottom into night 2. Night 2 introduces the fattest animatronic Scott Braden Cawthon has ever designed, Toy Freddy. Seriously, what a fat piece of shit Toy Freddy is. Most of the toy animatronics were meant to protect the children in the pizzeria, but this fat bastard was eating those little bitches like a goddamn grilled cheese. Estimating that there's over 78,000 calories in an average-sized kid, and this roly-poly ass bear over here is eating at minimum 6 a day, you do the math and figure out why this fat ass hasn't felt the touch of a woman in over 3 decades. So, what does the inflation fetish himself actually do? Well, considering the 2 entrances we've covered so far are small vents, you already know this monster-sized creature isn't fitting in there. So instead, he has to attack from the large hallway on the right of your office. When he shows up, all you have to do is hold your flashlight on him and he'll go away. Probably because he hasn't seen sunlight in over 12 years because he's been stuck in his room all day on Discord and League of Legends, arguing about how no, he actually isn't fat, he's just on a bulk right now and he's gonna cut soon. I'd say more like he's gonna cut the fucking fruits out of his diet. Did you know this gargantuan robot removed the light bulb from his fridge because it hurt his eyes every time he opened it to get food? For most, that wouldn't be an issue, but for how commonly he was opening it throughout the day, I guess it is understandable why it became a problem for him. Alright, I feel like all that bullying was appropriate. How about we move on to night 3, shall we? Night 3 adds the combo of the century, Mangle, and the little fucking freak geek himself, Balloon Bitch. I mean, Balloon Boy. I didn't mean boy. I meant bitch. You caught me red-handed. What can I say? Since I hate him so much, I'll start with him. Balloon Boy does literally exactly what he does in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Enters your left vent.
Hello?
If you don't put your mask on fast enough, he'll swipe the batteries from your flashlight and goon in the corner of your office. Hence why I call him the little fucking freak geek. In all reality though, Balloon Boy isn't a problem at all. I actually only ever had to deal with him maybe 3 times throughout my entire playthrough. Literally, the moment you put your mask on, he runs past you and you can instantly take it back off. So let's talk about the real threat of this night, who is honestly the biggest threat in the entire game, Mangle. Mangle is the reason you have to worry about your vent cameras, because that's where she goes. Once she enters your vent, she'll have 3 paths to go, all of which go towards a fan. If you look at your maintenance panel, which I've neglected to mention thus far, you'll be able to see 3 fan icons. These fans correlate directly to the fans in your vent, and they are what's keeping you from dying via heat stroke. You'll hear a vent sound cue letting you know Mangle has moved once she's in the vents. When you hear this sound, you need to drop everything you're doing and deal with her as fast as you can, since once you hear her move, you won't have much time to react. You'll need to quickly find which of the 3 vents she went to and seal it. If you don't do so in time, Mangle will literally throw herself into the fan, breaking a piece off of her to break your fan. If she breaks all 3, uh-oh Stinky, you're dead as fuck. Night 4 adds nothing new and is really just a harder version of Night 3. However, Night 5 adds another character that, surprise, surprise, I'm not the biggest fan of. The Marionette. Do you love random bullshit? The Marionette does. At random, you will hear a wind sound. Why a wind sound? I don't fucking know. Take a breath. What the fuck was that? Don't hit me with that. What the hell was that about? Were you busy doing something when you heard this wind sound? Stop being busy is what the Marionette says to you. Come find my Marionette instead, bitch. Pause. When you hear the wind sound, the Marionette will spawn randomly on one of your non-vent cameras. And when she does, all you have to do is find her and stare at her until she disappears. However, this can prove to be difficult at times, especially when the timing doesn't have your best interests at heart, which, by the way, it never will. It wouldn't be a FNAF game without a 6th night though, of course. So what are we thinking? Harder version of Night 5, maybe? How about 2 new animatronics blowing up your butt like it's the 4th of July? Does that not sound like a good time? No, it doesn't? Well, how about too fucking bad? How does that sound? Night 6 deactivates every character we've seen so far. Henry tells us on the phone in Night 5 that after our shift, he would personally be dismantling all of the animatronics. And he's a man of his word. However, it's clear that there were 2 animatronics he forgot. And those are the characters present on Night 6. Spring Bonnie and Fredbear. Fredbear didn't make me want to pee blood, so let's talk about him first. Both characters in this night have multiple different attacks, and Fredbear's just so happened to be the least annoying of the 2. Fredbear's normal attack is just like Toy Bonnie, where he comes from the left vent. You'll be able to hear metal clanking coming from the vents. When you do, you'll have to quickly throw your mask on. Unlike Bonnie, you won't be able to see Fredbear in the vent. He'll just pile drive right through it directly into your office. To do this? Yup. Damn. His other attack is an interesting one. I have a generalized question for you. Do you enjoy looking through your cameras? Well, Fredbear doesn't like you doing that. Fredbear has the ability to disable cameras. How do you fix them? Great and necessary question. In your maintenance panel where you can see your fans, you'll also see a shock button. When you click it, it allows you to choose a camera to shock. If you shock a disabled camera, it will turn back on, allowing you to see it again. Be aware that shocking cameras do drain power, and the shock button also has a cooldown, so you can't just spam it. Fredbear alone is simple sugar, but mix him with Spring Bonnie and you'd rather wish there was a colony of fire ants crawling around in your urethra. Spring Bonnie is a bitch. He's such a bitch. Spring Bonnie attacks your ceiling vent, except unlike Chica, you won't be able to see him, only hear him. If you hear the vent banging, you had better close that vent as fast as you possibly can before he gets there and reams you in the rectum. Chill, I did it. This actually took me an embarrassingly long time to understand and figure out in my playthrough, and you can laugh at me while I figure it out on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Spring Bonnie has 2 other attacks, however. Let's dive into the less annoying of the 2 first. Exactly like Fredbear, Bonnie also doesn't like you looking at your cameras and will occasionally take up the entire screen of one. If you don't shock the camera he's on quick enough, he will permanently disable your camera for the rest of the night. So just shock him and you'll be Sigma. His other attack, however, is AIDS. Just pure AIDS. Just like Fredbear, Bonnie will also enter your office. However, when he does, you can't look at him or you will spontaneously combust. This brings up a problem that gets a little confusing to solve at times, because there's no great way to solve it that feels like you're solving anything. It's hard to explain. If you're in a camera while Bonnie is in your room, then congrats, you're safe. But because you'll be in your cameras most of the night, this threat really isn't a threat, but it can often catch you with your pants down. It's just overall a super confusing mechanic that I feel is very out of place and awkward. Something that I really like about this night is the music that plays while you're trying to beat it. I want you to do a freestyle of this. I'd do it, but I'd just make it gay. If you guys want to sit right here, I'm actually really okay with that. If you guys just want to sit and chill right here. Okay, you know what? That's fine. It reminds me a lot of Playtime with Percy, where the later fights in those nights also have music playing, which I also think is a game we all can agree is fantastic. You should watch my video about it here on Dxtr White after you finish this one. This game does have a custom night too. Would I recommend playing it? No. Did I beat it? No. Mainly because I would rather die than deal with all of the toys plus Fredbear and Spring Bonnie at the same time. I know some of you are masochists, but for the normal people like myself, we like having fun while we play games. But as far as story goes, that's all Fazbear Entertainment Storage has to offer. A short, sweet, simple game that's a lot of fun to spend time playing. Some may call it mediocre, some may call it boring, but I think it's perfect just the way it is. Just like you, baby girl. I see the way you look at me when you walk past me in the hall. Shake it for me. Okay. Anyways. In my Mario and animatronic horror video, I asked you guys what your favorite non-typical FNAF fan game was. My favorite comment was this one from Games 1983. They said Day Shift at Freddy's, and I think that's a great answer. It's a game that I have yet to play, but I've been recommended a lot. I know it's super funny, and I totally intend on making a video on it in the future. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in hearing me talk about. It would be a long video though. I've been Dxtr, and I'll see you all in the next video. See ya!